Well, let's talk about local, doubt, and victories. Local what? We'll find out. Thank you for listening again. I appreciate you. Welcome to How to Switch to a Tech Career in Your 30s and 40s. It's the podcast where we love to get excited and down to brass tacks, talking about the real things that help you move the needle when you switch from any other career into a high-tech or IT career. And this is where we're going to discuss the real hints, tips, tricks, and the methods and the protocol that help you switch into a real tech career. So welcome. That's right. Brass tacks. Who talks about brass tacks anymore? I don't even know what that means. Can we not use that term anymore? So I'm maybe going to edit that out in the future. I don't know what brass tacks means. So we get down to the nuts and bolts. How's that? The things that seem to help you. Let's go with that. So our three topics are three words. I try to make each podcast about three words. We have local and doubt and victories. Local, doubt, and victories. Before we get to there, I have a few announcements coming up. And because some of you may have a shorter drive on the way to work, shout out to Tanja, Tanja has been listening on her drive to work. Shout out to you, Tanja. And Joe, I know you've been listening on your commute. Shout out to you, Joe. And anyone else who has been listening. I know. I think I'm going by memory. Is it Kevin that got the free book in April? We're almost done with April, and the free book is done. So congratulations to you back in the day. But I know you were listening. If you are listening, you'd like to have some sort of response or even get interviewed, you can do that. And here's another opportunity. And I will give you an email address. Another opportunity is we have coming up this Monday. That is going to be April 29th. I think it's 7 p.m. Central. April 29th. I'll give you the details if you email me, but we're going to start a 3-day challenge. So we'll meet for 1 hour on April 29th, 1 hour April 30th, and then 1 hour on May 1st, same time. So 3 days, and what we're going to do is talk about getting plans together. In my free Facebook community, I asked people and took a poll as to what were the top topics. I think I gave 3 out there, and there were responses, and the biggest one got the most responses, positive responses, was how do I make plans as I go to switch to a tech career? So let's do that for the 3-day challenge. If you want an invitation to the 3-day challenge, it's free, by the way, then I will send you an invitation. It's going to be on Zoom. And you need to email info@techlead.com. info@techleed.com. It's like the word technology shortened, only spelled wrong. And it's like lead, only spelled wrong. Wrongly? Incorrectly? Yes, we don't have a producer, but the producer would be checking me on my adverbs or whatever I'm using incorrectly there. techleed.com, info@techlead.com. All right, and I'll send you an invite. What else? Let's see. We'll get to these 3 words. I wanted to talk and ask you a question. It's rhetorical because I can't hear you, but answer for yourself. How are you doing with your family? If you are serious about making a switch into tech, that means there's some stress probably going on with the family. You are not quite making ends meet right now, or you are, but you have 0 time, or you're digging into more debt. I know how you feel. I've been there. I've done that. It's not a good feeling. I also did switch into a tech career. It took a lot of work, but it's possible. And then in 2020, if you're just joining me, you haven't listened to my first few episodes, you should know that my wife encouraged me in 2020. My wife is Jen. She said, "Hey, Brooks, you should, with this pandemic thing, everybody's locked in homes and people are having to quit their jobs because the companies are shutting down. You should try to help people level up in their career. People might be thinking about getting into tech jobs." So that's what I did, and that's how this started. So let me ask you, how are you doing with your family? Are you spending time with them? Are you leading your family? Are you making enough money? Are you making plans to make more money? Are you listening to this podcast as a way to find out information, or are you listening to this podcast to find out ways to make changes and to apply what's being told you? So I hope that you're encouraged, but I also hope that you know it's time for you to take steps forward. Whatever you do, take action. That's the only thing anything's going to change. If you, there used to be this game that was super popular when I was a kid, and maybe when you were too. It was called Trivial Pursuit. You'd sit around for hours answering questions about things that nobody really cares about. And at the end, the winner is the person who knows the most things that have the least impact on their lives, except for playing Trivial Pursuit or winning Mensa tournaments or qualifying for college or something like that. So you can get a lot of information, but it needs to be useful. You need to take action. So how are you doing with your family? What are you going to do to take action? Let's talk about local, the first word. Local. Areas close to home. That's what I mean. Have you looked for jobs close to home? Some of the best jobs I've had, including the first 2 tech jobs I got, and actually the first maybe 3, were local, close to home companies in the middle of Northeast Iowa. And they needed local workers. Nobody was going to move there. I think I've mentioned this before, but if you are applying online, you are in and looking for remote work, you are in the mix of hundreds of thousands, should I say millions of people looking for tech jobs just like you, and probably thousands, for sure hundreds of people trying to vie for the same job that you just applied for today. So if you want to eliminate the market, the competition, you need to reduce the size of the market. And you can do that by looking for a local position. If you are in a large market, such as maybe the biggest metros in the country, and I am in one of them, you may not have success doing this because people are willing to move to a large market. And there are larger companies usually. Another idea is look for opportunities that are a little farther out from yours. I'll give you an example. I was working a contract for, I think it was Robert Half in a company downtown Minneapolis. And in the afternoon, I got a call. So I was working on contract for Robert Half for a marketing company. And I got a call, and the call was, "Hey, we've got this opening at Mayo Clinic for a contract down there." It was a local recruiter from Rochester, Minnesota. And they said, "We've got one interview and we're done." And that is crazy. So I said, "Sure, I'll interview." And I passed the interview, and I said, I asked a question, why are you, just doing one interview? And the answer was they had run out of all their other options because people were not willing to drive an hour, hour and a half from Minneapolis to Rochester, Minnesota, which is where Mayo Clinic is. I was able to get into that position. It was a 6-month contract, and it extended to 18 months total. And it was a wonderful position for me to take. I was willing to drive and others were not. I think the commute actually would have been close to 2 hours for some people. I think that, or more, depending on where you lived in the area. So look for places that are a little bit farther away from your metro, and you may find more opportunities there. Second word today is doubt. Doubt. Do you ever doubt that you're going to be good enough? Do you ever doubt that you're going to pass a technical test or a coding test or a whiteboard interview? Um, your doubt is telling you something that maybe you're not ready yet to take those difficult tests. So the response to that is to get ready. When you doubt, it's a red flag indicator that something's not sitting right with you. It's either your plan, it's either your execution of the plan, or it's the way that you carry yourself. And if you know me, I'm going to go back to the 3 Ps and the P3 diagnostic that I have in my metallurgy method. The P3 diagnostic talks about your performance, your persistence, and your presentation. And usually when someone's doubting or frustrated, one of those areas or 2 of those areas are lacking. You're not executing at your top level. You could study more. Or maybe it's not just performance, maybe it's your persistence. You apply to 1 job per week and you haven't really brushed up your resume and gotten the tips you need. You can ask me for help if you need that. Or you're not presenting yourself very well. So, sorry, the resume was probably the presentation. You're not consistent. So, you're not doing things in a consistent manner. You're not studying, you're not applying in a consistent manner. So, you need to brush up on those. But when you are doubting something, look to one of those 3 areas. The way you present yourself, your resume, or how you talk to people. How much you're improving your skills, that's your performance. Or the third P is your persistence. How scheduled and ritualized are you in what you do? Do you focus when you study? Do you put on a timer for 20 minutes and knock out the study with no distractions? One of the worst things that you can do then is go by your emotions of doubt and say, well, I doubt. I'm really, really questioning whether or not I can do this. And then base your next actions on that doubt. You need to base your actions on facts. And those facts are you haven't been doing enough, but you can increase what you do. The opposite of a good person, the opposite of a successful tech career getter, it's really hard for me to come up with a phrase or a term that talks about someone who switches from any career to a tech career. But the opposite of a good, successful tech career switcher is someone who bases their actions on how they feel. And for a lot of us creative types who are able to even conceive of switching careers, we struggle with that. So base your emotions on the facts of what you've gotten done and then try to beat that. Try to improve over that. Third word is victories. And I am encouraging you today, look for little victories in what you've done. Did you study for 10 minutes today? Did you buy a course today and log in? Did you start to apply to a position today? Did you sit down and think about your tasks for the rest of the week? One thing I can tell you is that you're listening to this podcast at some point in time, and you're listening to it right now, so that's your today, and you should feel good that you did this. And that is not just crazy talk and emotional, psychological buffoonery. It is a good thing. So take the victories where you can find them. and base your emotions off those. Those are the 3 words: local, doubt, and victories. And I want to really appreciate you for coming and listening to this podcast. I hope that you'll come back the next week, next Tuesday, when I put out a new one. Bye-bye. I appreciate you, the listener. You took time to join this podcast and listen to the things that I've said. So I want to just say thank you. If you check the show notes, you will notice a couple links there. And one of them is to be an interviewee on this podcast. You can do it using your name. We can interview you, give you some coaching. You can also do that interview anonymously with an ID so that you won't be found out at your current job. So we want to be sensitive to you in that way, but also give you some help. So check the link for that application and for other free information. Join us next time. Thanks again for listening.